All right, Ryan, you're almost done with decontamination.
Well, it's about time. Why do I have to do this anyway?
Because there's no telling what kind of stuff you were exposed to when you went off with not Santa. Now hold still.
Exactly. This is for your protection as well as ours.
Oh, fine.
Okay, the only thing left is the acid bath.
Wait, what do you mean acid bath? Hello and welcome to the Retro Odyssey. I'm your host Ryan, joined by my co-hosts Matt and Steven. How y'all doing today?
Yeah, pretty good.
I'm doing okay now that our government has deigned to give me $600.
You didn't even earn that $600.
Jesus. It's literally not even the amount of money we lost when we had COVID.
I know. But, you just got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah, except when we do that, they say no, bad.
Wait, that's illegal. Oh, man, no, as you know, I contracted that COVID, and I got to tell you, would not recommend.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Dude, it was bad. I got, the fatigue and the walk, normally it's like I'm not in shape, but I don't want to die after walking across the living room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't get winded moving around my house. I could barely make it to the bathroom, and I was wheezing.
Yeah, and that was the problem my wife had because we live in a 2-story house. So,
rip.
Oh yeah, so when even after she was cleared for isolation and able to move around the house, it still was if she went downstairs, she didn't come back up for a while. And it kind of sucked because her job requires a lot of walking. So she's pretty much recovered, but it was the fatigue was real bad.
Wait, did your wife get it, but you didn't?
Yes.
Oh, dang.
So, and the reason was because at the time I was on first shift, she was on second shift, so we basically didn't interact. Even though we sleep in the same bed, we barely ever saw each other.
Yeah, well, at least she's on the mend now, though.
Yeah, she's fully recovered, and her mom fully recovered, which was the important thing for us because she's got a compromised immune system. So we were really worried about her getting it, but luckily she was able to recover.
Yeah, that's a spooky time.
Yeah.
Well, other than dodging the COVID, Matt, and getting the COVID, Steven, what have you been doing with your free time?
Well, I've been, what should I say, my tarantula has been molting. About a week ago, she molted, and she is now a slightly bigger tarantula.
Soon she'll be big enough to kill you.
Yep.
What a way to go.
I've actually got a third enclosure for it on the way, because when I first was researching the species, I think I kind of came across some outdated information that said this particular species is arboreal, which means they live in trees, they climb a lot. Turns out the species is actually kind of terrestrial and they climb a little bit. So I had a really big arboreal tank to start with, and she couldn't settle in that. So I bought her a smaller arboreal tank, and she's been in that for about a month or so. And after doing a bit more research and speaking to people who have kept tarantulas for years
and actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah, basically saying actually this enclosure isn't great, you kind of want like a more terrestrial one, which is like longer rather than taller. I ordered a terrestrial one, and it's going to look really cool because I've got a load of old Warhammer terrain, ruins and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they do like to have a lot of things to like anchor their webs on, because that particular species does do a lot of webbing. So what I've got like these old ruined pillars. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of like use a glue gun to like glue these pillars onto the bottom of the enclosure just so they don't move. Put like the soil like a couple inches like covering the bottom of it, and it should look really cool. But
Nice.
that is going to be coming on Monday. So hopefully I can get that set up. I kind of feel bad though, because after like being in the tank that she's in for about a month, she just started webbing up like 2 days ago. And now I'm gonna have to kind of like evict her from that and put her in another one.
You monster.
But she'll
that'll
be
actually look really dope.
she'll be rewarded with some food, because after they molt, you can't really feed them for about a week.
Because they're all soft and squishy.
Yeah, basically, because their fangs haven't like fully hardened, if they feed, they can break the fangs, and that will cause them to like literally starve to death because they won't be able to eat. Right. So she molted last week, Saturday overnight. So it has been about a week. So when I put her in that enclosure on Monday, I'll give her a couple roaches, and hopefully she'll be happy with that, and she'll be able to settle into the new one. She owns more real estate than I do. So it has ended up being a little bit more expensive than originally planned. But yeah, it's all right. I mean, the enclosure that she is currently in, the smaller one, I'm not going to leave that empty. I am looking at getting another tarantula who is actually arboreal that will be able to use that tank. So that's basically what I've been doing with my free time, at least my non-gaming free time.
Sounds like a good investment. Yeah, I know you sent some pictures in post molt. The way tarantulas molt so creepy. Flip around and wriggle out.
I'm sad that she kind of like did it overnight, because like I was in bed when she did it. I would have liked to have like watched the whole process.
What you do? You set up a camera and get that time lapse.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I have a GoPro, but it doesn't have a lot of battery life. Well, I mean, it's not a proper GoPro. It's kind of like a knockoff one, and the battery life's not great.
Weak.
She was on her back, wriggling about when I went to bed, and when I woke up, she was like flipped back over, standing on top of her molt. So, yeah.
All completely winded and shit. Yeah. But she's a good boy, girl. Give her snackies.
Still unknown.
Belly rubs.
Yeah, the I couldn't tell from the abdomen, because the abdomen was like damaged in the molt. So I wasn't able to actually tell from the molt. So maybe the next time she molts, if the abdomen is intact on that, I should hopefully be able to tell.
Nice.
Because the females have, for want of a better term, they have a jizz pocket.
Oh, okay.
On their abdomen, literally like a pouch for sperm. On the inside of their abdomen.
Well, I mean, you got to have some. You got to have some for later.
Yeah.
Spiders don't really have the capacity to carry like a to-go box, so it's all built in. I don't even know where I went with that. I just put that in my pocket. Thanks. It was a nice night.
I mean,
But
you laugh, but that's literally what happens.
no, I know,
Yeah.
but it's just what have I been doing? Well, like I said, I got the COVID, played a little bit of Tetris over those 10 days because I was just too mentally exhausted to actually play games. And it sucked because for Christmas, my brother got me a physical copy of Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and Will of the Wisps.
Oh, nice.
For Switch, he got me the physical copies, and I was just I got hit with the COVID right after Christmas, and I was just so completely gutted I couldn't play them. And now I've been too busy to play them, so that really sucked. But other than that, not too long ago, ended up with a dog, and he's a very good boy. So that's been, now I have to dedicate time for walkies. But other than that, he's a big couch potato. I just really haven't. It feels like all I've done is work.
Yeah, same.
That's all it feels like. It's like you're out of work, or you're out of work. You're away from your job for 2 weeks, and you come back, and it feels like you're 2 months behind.
Yep. I started a new job right about a month ago. I may have mentioned it last time because I would have just started. But yeah, I started a new job, which is actually an old job that I went back to. It's been great. It's a place I actually have the possibility of, moving up. And it's back in manufacturing, so much better than warehousing.
It's manufacturing. Oh shit! I remember you mentioned what you were making, and I can't remember now.
It's plastic parts. A lot of it is stuff for like water systems. Although we do make assault rifle magazines as well.
Nice.
But yeah, mostly like parts for water systems, or there's a few other things we make, but it's a pretty good job, a pretty good company. They're a small company, like to the point that I'll see the owner almost every day, because the building I work in is also the headquarters. Which I've always had better luck with those small companies, as opposed to things like Amazon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so new job. I am very hopeful. I feel a whole lot better physically and mentally since starting this job.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a good thing. Like my mental health was much improved when I got out of that warehouse and back in a factory where I belong, I guess.
Amazon pays well, but everyone I know that's gone to work for Amazon has basically said it might not be worth it.
No.
And some people are like, definitely not worth it. One guy I know, he drove for FedEx.
Mm-hmm.
Then he went and drove for Amazon. And then he went back to drive for FedEx because he just couldn't handle the stress of Amazon.
Yeah. And what I tell people is it's worth it if you can handle it. But, I am not a fit man. So like, my body type doesn't do well in warehouses. I do much better in a factory where it's not about how much you produce. It's about how many good units you produce. Like, the quality is much more important than the production, because if you just make a bunch of bad parts, then there's no point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's up with me, aside from the video games, which there's been a lot of. Oh, geez.
Yeah. So what have you been playing this month?
Well, I'm trying to think of when I started some of this nonsense I've been doing, because my wife got me the Super Mario 3D All-Stars for Christmas. So I started playing Mario 64 and recording that, and I'm almost done with that. And I also played some of Mario Galaxy on there, which I love Mario Galaxy on there because using a Pro controller and having the motion control for the pointer, just it feels so natural and it works really well. I absolutely love it. Like, as much as I love Galaxy on the Wii, this is probably how I will play Galaxy from here on out.
Yeah.
So that's really good. A friend of mine got me Hades for Christmas, so I started playing that, and of course, that's fantastic, as everyone else has been saying. It was funny. I was showing it to my sister, and my sister is 16, so she's got a lot of hormones going on, and like every Greek god that came up on there, she's like, "Hello." Because she's 16 and very bisexual, so it was funny to watch that. But let's see what else. I've been recording a few games. I'm supposed to be playing Final Fantasy X, but I kind of fell off a bit. Oh, I was recording Assassin's Creed games.
I'm sorry.
Well, I think all the talk about Valhalla got me wanting to play them again. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna start over again, but this time I'm gonna record it so I don't have to play these first few games every time. So I recorded the first game. I've recorded most of 2. Now I'm just gonna kind of work my way through recording them, and then I was getting caught up on one of my Kingdom Hearts recap podcasts, and that got me like, man, I want to play some Kingdom Hearts. So I've started jumping around Kingdom Hearts, working on some of the platinums on PS3 and playing some of the handhelds that I never got around to. So, yeah, it's just a whole lot of nonsense going on over here in terms of games.
Wish I had that problem. Really need to get into a game soon.
I've been playing quite a few things this month. Aside from the usual, Final Fantasy XIV and Binding of Isaac, which I cannot get a Judas Greedier kill on. I've been trying all month. I'll get it eventually, but it's just not happened yet. I've been playing Final Fantasy VII, which I mentioned in the last episode, but I actually went back and started again because I felt like I was missing a hell of a lot because I wasn't using a guide. And I found myself, I got all the way to Costa del Sol, and I felt under-leveled. I didn't have Yuffie. Like, so much stuff that I felt like I'd missed. So I got a guide, like, online. Not like a physical one, because they're really expensive. Mm-hmm. But I downloaded one out and printed it out, and I've gone back, and that's basically how I've been going through it. I am currently trying to grind out a limit break on Aerith so I can take out the Midgar Zolom worm, which is something that should and does wreck you at that level. But Aerith's limit break gives you like invulnerability for a short amount of time, and there's a tactic to taking it down, and you get like a really useful enemy skill from it.
Yeah, because by the time you can come back and get that enemy skill, like you're high enough level that you can fight it. It's still tough, but you can fight it. But like that enemy skill is not as useful by the time you can come back around because you've got stronger stuff.
Yeah. I've been going through and making sure I get like all of the missable stuff, all of the stuff that you can steal from mobs, and like really decent weapons for all the different characters. So I'm making sure that I've been getting them, and just working my way through trying to get back to that point again. What I do really like, it has a lot of touches of humor. A lot of it really subtle, and it just kind of like gives you this levity to it, despite it being like a really dark story. I mean, there's one particular one sticks in my mind. when you go on the ship over to Costa del Sol, everyone's wearing sailor costumes. And Tifa says to Barrett, "You look really cute in that sailor costume." And he gets all pissed off. He's not happy that he looks cute in this sailor costume. And like goes off on one. And then when you get into Costa del Sol, in one of the bars, you can kind of see, if you don't go to the back of the bar, you won't even see it. But you'll see Barrett in one of the bathrooms wearing the sailor costume, checking himself out in the mirror. Which I just found like a really cute little scene.
That's a nice little touch.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, my favorite line in that scene where he's getting upset about it is Cloud saying, "You look like a bear wearing a marshmallow."
Outstanding.
So yeah, I've been playing that, and I have also kind of like dipped into another MMORPG, Neverwinter, which is a free-to-play one. It's one of the official Dungeons and Dragons ones.
Oh yeah, Neverwinter's been around forever.
And it's available on PS4. So I downloaded it on PS4, and I've done like a few hours of that. I live streamed the whole thing as well. That's quite a fun little game. I mean, I already have kind of like my main MMO in Final Fantasy XIV, but if I'm looking for something to just play while I'm on the couch, you know, something that I can just dip into, that's kind of ideal, really. I mean, Final Fantasy XIV is on PS4 as well, but with me being so used to kind of like the combat on PC, I can't really switch over to PS4 and do it with a pad.
Right. See, I started on PS4. I mean, I say started like I'm gonna continue on PS4, but like like it. I definitely understand. Like if you're used to the PC controls, PS4 is an adjustment.
I mean, I also actually started on PS4, and I switched over to PC, and I found it so much better to play on PC. You know, because I've been playing like WoW for like a decade.
Right.
You know, just having like the mouse and keyboard control for that kind of thing is really. It just feels a lot more natural.
Whereas I am actually, I prefer to play games sitting in a comfortable chair rather than at my computer desk. So that's why I knew I was gonna stick with PS4. But that's it's the nice thing about it is you can play it how you want.
Yeah, I mean, you need to have a subscription for both if you're going to play it on both, but it is crossplay.
Right.
Well, and I mean, I say subscription for both. You only need one subscription, but you've got to buy the game for.
Right, you have to buy the game
for both. So you can like just switch between. Neverwinter is on several platforms, but it doesn't have crossplay.
Mm.
So if I wanted to play it on PC, I would have to have another account. But I am quite happy just having it be a game that I can play on the couch with a controller that I'm probably not going to get too deep into.
I tried doing that with Terra because it's on Xbox One, and that game is not even remotely designed for a controller. It's just not. Like, they barely make it work.
I played in the beta for that, but I don't remember much about it.
Terra's fine. It's it's an MMORPG, but instead of like spam your attacks like WoW, it tried to bring kind of that World of Warcraft feel, but instead of just mash your function keys to do attacks, it's actually like an active action RPG. So it's kind of a nice hybrid, but you still have like spells and stuff you have to trigger. So you really need access, like fast access to a hotbar. It's a perfect blend. It was quite fun, but my PC can't run it super well. So I was like, oh, cool, they optimized it for Xbox One. They didn't optimize it for Xbox One. They got it running on Xbox One.
So, like combat-wise, would you say it's similar to kind of like, say, Dragon's Dogma then?
Yes.
Because that did have abilities that whilst not quite an MMO kind of thing, it does feel more actiony.
Yeah. Well, like you
with the abilities.
you have to actively run up. Like you have spells that you can like shoot fireballs and shit like that. All your healing spells and buffs and attacks, which will give you range if that's what they are or what have you. Whatever they do, they'll do it. But when it comes to actual combat, you actually need to, like, if you're using a weapon, you actually have to roll up and use your weapon and hack and slash at them. And you can avoid damage by dodging and getting out of the way. When Terra was pretty new, one of my friends started up a character, and his goal was to solo everything, and he did. And he was talking about how boss battles just took forever because basically you were Dark Soulsing it, except Dark Souls wasn't really a thing. Not a popular thing at that time. I don't even know if Dark Souls was around. I know Demon Souls was. But where it's just like, oh, get one or two hits in, and then roll and dodge and get out of the way, and then run back and get one or two hits in and do it again. So these bosses that should be taking 30 minutes with a team are taking him literally 3-4 hours. Because he's doing 1-2 hits at a time, and he has no support. He has to do everything himself. But he got through a big chunk of the game that way because I guess he's a masochist. Pretty impressive. But yeah, you can actually that's what I like is that you actually there's a level of skill you can acquire, and you immediately benefit from it. The amount of just random, just RNG for like, oh, did my attack hit? Did my spell hit? We'll never know. It's like, well, no, if it hits the enemy, it's the enemy. If you miss, it misses. I should get back into it sometime. It's actually quite a good game.
Is it a free-to-play one?
I think it is. I think it is free-to-play. And I do know that on at least Xbox One, it has mouse and keyboard support now.
Because, yeah, Neverwinter is free-to-play. It does have, as you'd imagine, it's got kind of like the economy with the premium currency and subscription if you want it. But one of the things that did impress me is that you can play through all of the content completely free. Content itself is not locked behind a paywall. It's just stuff like mounts and cosmetics and gear and stuff like that, which you can also earn in the game, just at a much slower rate.
That's always nice when they have Smurf berries in there like that, but it's not a pay-to-win scenario.
It's fully voice acted as well, which I wasn't expecting.
Oh, that's kind of impressive.
Oh, nice.
And the main reason that I was kind of like looking at it is because I was looking at some like Ravenloft stuff for D&D, just because I wanted to look at some horror stuff on YouTube, and an advert for the Ravenloft expansion for Neverwinter came up, and it looked really cool. So I just thought, yeah, sure, we'll give that a go. I think you've got to be max level though to do the like the expansions and stuff. But yeah, that's everything that I've been playing.
A lot more than I've been playing. I'm just gonna be salty about that. I haven't really played any games. It's not been great. I feel sad. Everybody's having a good time except me. Well, if that's been catching up, how about we scuttle on over to news? It's been a little bit. I think it's time for some.
Strobo, free bagels at the water cooler. I'm sorry, ma'am. Free bagels just happened.
So it's time for the news, and we will kick off the news with this month's fucking Nintendo news.
There's a lot of it.
Which is a regular feature now.
Oh boy.
It's always something.
Start of the month, Nintendo delisted 250 DSiWare games from the eShop.
Now, the issue with that is not so much that it was like, because it's not like a lot of those DSiWare, it's just a lot of like applications and stuff. But there's no way to get those ever again. Like, that's it. They're done. They're gone forever. Unless you have a unless you have like a DSi with those downloaded, you'll never see them again. And some of them are full-fledged games that are just gone now.
Like Shantae Risky's Revenge, which is like hailed as like a classic. Gone.
Fortunately, Risky's Revenge got ported.
But there will be a lot that haven't.
Yeah. Oh, there's a ton of games on there that haven't and will never be, almost assuredly. And that's what a Nintendo stunt.
Yeah.
But it's basically all of the games released before May 2011. And they did this without warning as well, so there wasn't even a chance for people to download the games that they wanted.
You had to jump in there and just really get them. One last push. I would have hopped on and bought something, I bet. Oh, no, I don't have a DSi. Just have a DS. Damn. Well, I have a 3DS. I should be able to access it through that.
Should be.
Well, not anymore, you can't.
Well, no, not anymore. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, no, that's a pretty standard bullshit Nintendo move.
So basically, if you want to play any of these games, then I guess you're pirating them.
Good fucking luck.
Whoops. That's what happens. Yeah, it's pretty shitty of them. What else we got going on here now? Not really retro, but we've gotten announcements for rather humorous consoles cashing in on the hype of the console war. Of course, none of this is really new news now, but the biggest one was the KFC console, or the KF console.
Yeah, which it isn't really a console. It is a PC that runs so hot that they have the heat as a feature. They have like a little tray, which I believe they call like the chicken tray or whatever, to keep your chicken warm. Except the only reason that's there is because the PC runs really hot, because it's a piece of shit PC.
And well, what's funny is actually this is kicked off by and it went under the radar, was the Bud Light console.
Oh dear God!
And this was actually last year that kicked like that came off. Bud Light did they made one or two consoles, and it was essentially just a gaming PC, like a midline gaming PC, but it looked like a 6-pack of beer. But it could actually chill down 2 beers. It had 2 slots where you could drop 2 beers, and I guess it was liquid cooled or whatever, and it would actually cool the beers off too, and keep them cold. It was basically a console koozie.
I feel like that's less like, I don't know. I feel like advertising based on cold is better than advertising based on how hot it runs.
Yeah. This is so cool, it'll chill a beer for you. Ours is so hot, it'll keep your chicken warm.
I mean, look, I am from the South. Fried chicken is kind of a big deal down here. I wouldn't mess with that. But
no, you can probably just toss it on top of a PS3 power brick and you'd be fine.
Well, I mean, once chicken's cooked, it's kind of something that you don't want to keep a constant heat on.
No, it isn't, because then it starts building up moisture, and then all your crispiness gets soft.
Yep.
Which is part of the reason that KFC, I don't know about now, I haven't had KFC in years, but KFC kind of sucked, because it would just sit there and they keep it under heat lamp and you wouldn't get crispy chicken. That was always my experience. You didn't get crispy tenders or drums or anything like that. You just got breaded chicken.
But moving on from consoles made by fast food, there is another console coming from actual literal criminals.
What?
This is the Mega Engine CD-ROM player, and it plays TurboGrafx CD and Sega CD, which is an odd couple things to actually put together.
Weird.
In one console. But it's called the Mega Engine, and it is made by a company that does repros of older games, mostly for TurboGrafx, and they charge quite a bit of money for these, but they don't hold the rights to them. It's basically kind of like limited run, but they don't actually hold the rights to the games.
Limited Run acquires the rights to reproduce these games. I really want to understand how they haven't gotten sued.
I'm really not sure. But the company is called PCE Works, and they've been doing these repros for a while. And I have no idea why
Where's
and
the
how
country
they're
based?
still able to do. It's US, I believe.
Oh, damn!
It's
Because
US.
I was gonna say if it was like based in China, that's one of those things where it's like you send them a decent cease and desist order, and they go lol and throw it away
Mm.
because they don't. The copyright laws are not respected over there, and their copyright laws are a joke. So they can, yeah, they can make that, and they can sell repros, and the only thing that can be done is people who own the actual rights to these games is they can lobby store platforms to not sell them. So they can go to Amazon and be like, hey, don't sell this. They can go to, whatever and be like, don't sell this because it's not legal and we'll sue you if you sell it, if you give them a platform. But there's so many, there's so many internet storefronts that's literally impossible to track them all down.
Yeah, well, this one particular company, I have no idea how they're able to continue doing this. It is like such an unprofessional kind of setup. It's just like a WordPress page, their web page. They don't even have a custom domain. It's just pceworks.wordpress.com. And
That sounds so fucking sketchy.
and I know from experience that it is cheap to buy a domain name because we have one for retroodysseypodcast.com, which I bought and own, and it didn't exactly cost the earth. But
No, and it used to have like 37 numbers behind it.
yeah.
That's before we went legit.
But yeah, this shady, essentially bootleg pirate company is putting out this mega engine, and it's going to be kind of like $100, I think. Which
I question how well that's going to emulate.
Considering it can only play 2 systems, and the Polymega's on its way, which can play those 2 systems and more, for not a hell of a lot more money. It's like, what is the market for this?
I have no idea. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
But yeah, so that is coming out at some point. I don't think it has a release date. But speaking of limited run, which we just mentioned a short while ago, Night Trap Sega CD version is coming out from Limited Run.
Nice.
So it is a recreation of the original, because it has already come out on consoles, on like modern consoles. I have it on Switch, I believe. But yeah, they are doing a limited Sega CD version, which is interesting, because it does go for quite a lot of money.
Which is weird because it's like, it's a game. I think it's just the what's the word I'm looking for? It's popular because of the controversy that was behind it.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at it, it's more campy than controversial. I think a lot of the controversy was overblown, a hell of a lot, and
as most of them tend to be.
Well, yeah,
and
that's half the fun.
It is kind of like a hokey, played for laughs horror B movie kind of thing that doesn't take itself too seriously. But yeah, if you have a Sega CD, Mega CD, then you can now get a copy of Night Trap considerably cheaper than you would have done.
Right.
Although obviously, if you get it on modern consoles, you have like the full video quality and stuff like that, which obviously this won't have, because it'll just have like the pixelated video.
Right.
But
right.
Be a nice thing to have, I guess. This is a kind of limited run release that I can see more value in than their usual stuff. I mean, I've spoken in the past about my issues with them doing it with like newly released games.
Mm-hmm.
But if it is an older one that they're just kind of like doing a limited run that isn't something that is like new on the market, you know, I'm kind of okay with it. Although it isn't something that I would buy personally.
But you don't object to it.
No. I don't object to it. But speaking of games for old systems, there's a new Dizzy game out called Wonderful Dizzy. I'm not sure how popular Dizzy was in the US because it was kind of like a Spectrum mascot. I mean, it was on other systems as well. But
I remember Disney ended up popping up on the Odyssey. He popped up on the NES and even the Genesis at one point.
Yeah, I believe they did. But it's made by these developers called the Oliver Twins, and they basically became famous from making these Dizzy games. And the Oliver Twins have released a new Dizzy game for the 128K Spectrum, and it's actually a free download as well. Or you can pay for kind of like a physical version, which I believe comes on cassette. And they are also making a version for the ZX Spectrum Next, but that version isn't out yet. It's
goofy.
It's apparently been reviewed really well. I mean, several YouTubers have said it is the best Dizzy game.
Well, I would hope so. They've only been working on it for 30 years.
Yeah.
But that's still really crazy. It's also really weird for me to think about how Dizzy was made by Codemasters. Because when I think of Codemasters, the most recent game I think of was Dirt.
Codemasters are now essentially a racing game company.
Yeah.
They pretty much exclusively make racing games now, but they were, like, during the Spectrum days, they would put out a hell of a lot of stuff. I've got shitloads of Codemasters games.
Yeah. Well, I remember also back in like I guess it'd be like the late 90s, they put out the MTV Music Generator music software. It was an arrangement tool. And it was solid. It wasn't great, but it was solid.
Yeah, they were always a company with that you could put a lot of trust in, really.
Yeah.
Back in the Spectrum days, because you didn't have the internet, you often couldn't see, unless it showed up in a magazine, like what the game was like. So there were certain companies that had a reputation for putting out really decent games. So if you saw Codemasters on a cassette, you kind of knew that you were probably getting good value for money.
Getting some quality. Holy crap, I just pulled up the list of Dizzy games. I thought there was like 3 or 4 of them.
Oh, God, no.
Oh, no.
Loads.
They were just churning out Dizzy for a minute. They had 5 games released in 1991 alone.
Yeah, it was a really popular series. It's kind of like they're like adventure games, with a bit of platforming thrown in as well. If you are into Dizzy, you can download the TAP file, I think it is, for Spectrum emulators, or there is a Spectrum Next version coming soon as well.
That's outstanding.
And that is all the news I have. I don't know if you guys have anything else.
Well, I have some anniversaries here, and since we're a little late on our release, I'm going to run through the current month and then also the month where we'll be publishing. We've got January doesn't have a whole lot. Mega Man X3 turned 25. Duke Nukem 3D also turned 25. Oh, Ape Escape 3 on the PS2 turned 15. Oh, that's crazy. The Mega Man X collection. The Mega Man X3 turned 25, but the Mega Man X collection turned 15. For January, that's for January. For February, we're going to see a little bit more important anniversaries, like id turned 30, which is pretty cool, if you ask me. Lemmings turns 30 as well. Super important. Very well. The Famicom turns 30. Or 35. The Famicom turns 35. Then there's a whole bunch of important, like for 2021 as a whole, there's a whole bunch of important Nintendo anniversaries. But the big one is February 21st, The Legend of Zelda turns 35 years old, which marks the beginning of, obviously, an entire series, which kind of has me hoping that we're going to see something important, some important anniversary release for Legend of Zelda.
Right.
Limited run versions of the CDI games.
Please, please. I'll take it. I'll take it.
That can only be played on CDI.
And Philips is coming back and releasing special edition CDI that come March next year, Nintendo's going to break into your house and steal.
Right?
Pokemon turns 25 this year in February as well. So that's kind of a big deal. Civilization turns 25, or Civilization 2 turned 25. Civilization games are pretty good. I personally prefer... it's made by the same guy. Give me a second. Came out after Civilization. It was basically Civilization, except it was space. And I cannot remember the name of it now. Let's see what else. Big ones. Defender turned 40, which is really wild to think about. And Scramble, which was another horizontal shooter at the time, made by Konami, if I am correct, also turned 40. So games is getting old, y'all.
I've not played Scramble, but I have played Defender.
Yeah, I don't think Scramble took off the way Defender did, but also I think that was them just dumping arcades everywhere. One of them's going to stick. I'm sure they'll come up later in the year, but I do just want to point out that Donkey Kong is turning 40 this year, I think. And that's probably one of the most overlooked anniversaries of Nintendo.
Which is funny because it's also a Mario anniversary.
Yeah, technically that's a Mario anniversary because that'd be when Mario first popped up. Or second popped up? No, it'd be when he first popped up because he was just
his first appearance was the original Donkey Kong.
Yeah, so it's technically Mario also turns 40, but they don't count it because he wasn't Mario. Mario hadn't been established yet.
Right. I think they start that with Mario Brothers.
Mm-hmm. So it's a really big deal about this anniversary in my mind because Donkey Kong was like Nintendo's first... I'm not sure it was their very first video game, but it was definitely their first smash hit.
Right. So what month was Donkey Kong?
Oh, I'm not sure what month it is. I was just thinking about this a few days ago, how Donkey Kong is going. It'll be July. In July, it'll be 40.
Okay.
I mean, you don't hear a lot about it from Nintendo, but they did do that awesome tribute to it in Super Mario Odyssey.
They did. They definitely acknowledge
it
because it's not like the original Donkey Kong arcade is some sort of ultra fantastic game. It's not. I'm not going to pretend it is. But it is a solid game, and it did kick off Nintendo as a video game company. It really established them as making video games, and this is what we're going to do now. And it gave birth to two of their biggest mascots in one swoop.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be really, really pissed if we don't see a celebration of Donkey Kong, because 40 is a milestone.
Well, I'll tell you what, even if they don't do it, we should.
Yeah, we should. There's tons, and the Donkey Kong series is great. Like from top to bottom, there's been a couple flops, like the Donkey Kong Jr. games, Donkey Kong 2. But then you have games like Donkey Kong on the Game Boy is an absolutely fantastic re-envisioning and realization of the original Donkey Kong arcade.
And that's not even getting into Donkey Kong Country.
It's so good. And then you get into Donkey Kong Country, and that entire basically that became the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly. You had the Donkey Kong Country 1 through 3, Donkey Kong Land 1 through 3, which were just basically reworkings for the Game Boy. And then you had Return to Donkey Kong Country, or I guess it was Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Yeah.
You've got Tropical Freeze. There was another one in there somewhere. Donkey Kong 64, which is outstanding.
There was a Tropical Freeze re-release on Switch with Funky Mode.
Oh, yeah. The game doesn't get nearly as much love as Mario does, but they haven't gone out of their way to abandon it and ignore it, kind of like they have with F-Zero.
But you do hear more about it from the speedrunning community than you do from Nintendo.
Oh yeah, with that whole well, not was it the speed running or was it just the high score community?
Oh, the high score, yeah. With
There was that whole debacle. There was a whole well, they did an entire documentary on that because it was
yeah,
such for what the game is. It was such a huge deal that
yeah,
the dude
because
apparently before we get sued because apparently he sues anybody who says that it wasn't legit. He supposedly cheated on his high score.
well, he's like free to come after me. He did cheat on his high score, and Billy Mitchell is a fucking disgrace.
He is. And it's a shame because it's not like he wasn't outstanding at the game. He has plenty of legit high scores and runs.
Yeah, and
one fell swoop, he went from a Donkey Kong arcade legend to a just total fuck up because he just had to have the higher score.
yeah, because in the movie, which everyone should watch, by the way, it's fantastic. It's called The King of Kong, but they set up this rivalry between him and Steve Wiebe, and Billy Mitchell essentially won out at the end of it. And when you watch that documentary, knowing that he cheated a hell of a lot of his scores,
mm-hmm.
you feel really bad for like Steve Wiebe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, it's just so ridiculous because one, it's Donkey Kong, and two, the dude had the skill and he fucked it all up.
I will say that that movie was the absolute fastest I have ever lost respect for a group of people, because like that entire group were all just dirt bags. Like,
yeah.
Every single one of them is like, modern games just aren't as good, and newer players don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, fuck you guys.
Fuck you. Yeah, exactly. Well, I've never understood the purpose of cheating in the speedrun and high score community because it's like, especially when you have people who are established as like top tiers, when people are already holding records, it doesn't make sense for them to cheat to beat their own records.
Yeah, I mean,
actually,
literally a month ago, a speedrunner called Dream.
Yeah, I was just about to bring it up.
Yeah, was shown to have cheated in one of his Minecraft runs, and this is a guy who has legit, really good speedruns.
Well, he held the previous record.
Yeah.
But like everything boiled down. He still denies that he cheated, but just like coming down to the probabilities are borderline impossible for his luck. And it's like, it's okay. It is RNG. Technically, it could have happened,
but
it is over 1 in a trillion chance.
Yeah, so like some of the things that happened were like 1 in a trillion. And yeah. I think one of them happened like twice or something like that. I didn't go deep into it, but it was just one of those things where it's like getting this once is literally like perfect speed run RNG. And the fact that you had several of these happen just pitches this literally into the realm of practical impossibility.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I've got no problem when you've got someone like Laura Kate Dale who's like, hey, nobody's speedrunning this. Let me go grab a few records just by playing the game.
Yeah, like, right.
What
was that Cooking Mama?
Yeah, Cooking Mama Cookstar, the one that is not purchasable anymore. It's like, okay, I'm not going to throw shade at that because that's just gaming the system, which is what speedrunning is all about. But like, like to actually cheat, and especially like you said, when they already have records, when they already have the capability, like, I don't know. I feel like if I was part of that community, I would care more about the sense of accomplishment from actually doing the thing than, what rank I am on the leaderboard. Like,
well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe the problem was that he was already, holding these speed runs. He was already holding these records on a lot of these builds of Minecraft. A new build of Minecraft would come out, and then he'd set a record for it. And maybe he was just getting sick of it wasn't really an accomplishment for him anymore.
Right.
But it's like, just find a new game. Go speedrun some Mario 64. The competition is super hot over there. Still, somehow. I don't understand. Don't cheat.
Anyway, so I guess listeners, you can expect a Donkey Kong episode sometime this year.
Yeah, I hope so, because lots of good stuff. We're just going to cover the arcade game and nothing else. Well, if that wraps up anniversaries, which I think it does, and I will remind you all in July that it was the anniversary for Donkey Kong, because I'm excited for it. I guess we can move on to the main event.
There was this one time where I had to hug a tree.
Keep on hugging it.
How did you get me to do this in the first place?
Hug it. Hug it.
And why do I continue to do it?
Keep on hugging it. Hug it down.
I don't even like this tree that much.
Well, the year is 2021, and as promised, Adobe killed Flash. It's done. Google Chrome has... Yeah, you bastards! Google Chrome has dropped Flash support. I believe Safari has dropped Flash support. Another browser, I believe, dropped Flash support that nobody cares about. Firefox still has Flash support. Like, there's still a plugin for it. They're not just getting rid of it outright.
Mm-hmm.
But Flash is dead. It's dead for real. And with that is the going away the ability, or the easy ability, I should say, because it's no longer like a native plugin, to play and watch literally 2 decades at least worth of Flash animation and games. And it's really funny about how the Flash animation and games popped in as like an actual media, like entertainment media. Because when it was made, it was really intended for website designers to put in animated and interactive elements into their web pages to make them more innovative and enticing to viewers. And it worked really well. And then people realized, well, we can just make cartoons on this. And that's what really kicked off, was like, this is basically animation software for the internet. Then people are like, well, it has interactive elements. And that means that you can essentially work it so you can play games. And then we got so many good games and cartoons out of it. And that's what we're doing in this episode, is in memoriam of Flash. Now, I know that Flash Studio and Flash animation in games was kind of a big deal for me, Macromedia, Flash Player, all that jazz. I remember on dial-up waiting for that to load up because it was wicked slow. Like, oh, I'm going to play a game, and you're just sitting there for 15 minutes waiting for it to load.
Right.
And you probably remember that too, I assume, Steven.
So I probably had a little bit less experience with Flash, but it was more like watching animations and honestly, a lot of my Flash experiences with Newgrounds. So, you know, a lot of their stuff, or at least the ones I dealt with, didn't take that long to load but they also weren't that robust. So,
oh yeah, Happy Tree Friends.
Super Flash Bros was a good one.
Super Flash Bros, yeah. Yeah, Newgrounds was like the spot for Flash. Like, it was just a Flash content dump. Even Ego Raptor started off there working through Flash. I remember all of his awesome stuff was just like, yeah, you got to watch this with Flash Multimedia Player, mm-hmm. because it won't load up anywhere. And now it's all on YouTube and stuff, and it's kind of weird to think about. What's really crazy is if you go on Newgrounds now, it's not quite as active. You can still find, well, maybe not now, but up until this year, you could still go on there and find Flash animation. People were still doing Flash stuff, even though there's objectively better software that isn't reliant on an actual it's not reliant on a plugin to operate on a browser. You could just upload as video. People were still doing it, and I'm assuming just because it was so intuitive and user friendly.
Well, that is something that's still going to go on because it is still software that is easy to use. And there are people who can so familiar with animating in Flash, even though they can't actually get their content out there through the Flash player, all they have to do is render it as a video. And you can, there are people that are just really, really comfortable with using Flash in that way. And you can get some really high quality stuff from it.
Oh, yeah, especially if you're one of those people who's been doing it forever.
It will still be used to animate. Animators can still use it because they can just export it as a video. Obviously, that wouldn't work for games, though.
No, that is the thing, is Flash games are super duper dead.
Yeah.
And what a shame that is. Because some of this stuff was some of this was meme culture before meme culture existed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned, Happy Tree Friends was explosively popular for a minute. And just gruesome and awful, but that's, again, it was the 2000s, so that was going to hit. Homestar Runner still has popularity. I mean, a couple years ago, Homestar Runner released a board game, and I own it, and it's fun. And it's weird to think that this stuff started off because people were doodling around and essentially misusing a program.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have stuff that defined an internet generation.
Yeah.
Effectively. Some of us more than others. Like Matt, you said you don't have a whole lot of experience with Flash.
No, I kind of had a period after I had been playing PC games for a long time. I kind of switched over to consoles around about the time the 360 came out. And I did that for a while and kind of moved away from PC gaming. And by the time I came back into PC gaming, Flash had essentially had its peak and was kind of on the decline again. So it wasn't really something that I was subjected to all that much. I mean, I have seen certain things like Homestar Runner you mentioned. I've seen a few episodes of that, but on YouTube rather than through Flash. And stuff that came later, like Salad Fingers, which is another really super weird animation, and
Rusty Spoons,
and Ed McMillan games, Meat Boy, the original Binding of Isaac. I've played, but generally, I kind of missed out on the craze.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the best parts, and we'll talk about a few of these games. Is how some of these games started off as Flash, and they were definitely prototype video games. But Super Meat Boy is a cult classic now, and not in the Flash part. A lot of people don't even know that Super Meat Boy started out as Flash. But it had Super Meat Boy Plus or something like that, and then also isn't there Super Meat Boy plus Super Meat Girl? Or maybe that's what I was thinking of, is Super Meat Boy plus Super Meat Girl as a sequel of just these brutally hard platformer games. And it was just a freebie that you could hop onto a website and play.
Yeah, I mean, Meat Boy was the original. That was definitely in Flash. I'm not sure, was Super Meat Boy Flash as well?
Oh, I don't know. That Super Meat Boy might have just been the official release. I'm just so used to calling it Super Meat Boy.
But it is so similar to Meat Boy. It's the same kind of thing.
Also designed by good old what's his name? Who's the guy who does
Ed
Binding of
McMillan.
Isaac? Edwin Miller. That's actually funny because I have his card game now. Tapeworm. ID to play it. Oh yeah, we're getting another one, Super Meat Boy Forever. It all started on Flash. Just making tunes. I think probably one of the most famous games to come out of Flash would be Alien Hominid. We really need to cover proper Alien Hominid at some point, and Maybe just that entire studio. We should focus on that studio. They made some really great stuff.
I really hope that the console remake is a bit more forgiving than the Flash version.
It is. Flash versions tend to be a little bit more brutal, a little bit more simple, just because they were dealing with what they could deal with. It's outlandish how complicated some of these Flash games got from such a simple software. Because like early Flash games are just really straightforward. Like a lot of them were like basically like click and point adventures. If you look at, was it Henry Stickmin has had a recent resurgence because the games got like remastered and re-released in not Flash, but those were mostly just like choose your own adventure. Pick a thing, click an item, and see what happens. And it was very, very simple. But then you get into something like Alien Hominid, and it's more complicated. It's a shoot 'em up. Well, not a shoot 'em up, a
run and gun.
A run and gun. Yes, it's a run and gun. And while the Flash game, as released on Newgrounds like 20 years ago almost, literally almost 20 years ago, 2002. Holy cow. It is what I would define as a game. And it's hard, but it's fun. It's still fun. It's a little rough. The animation's a little rough as compared to its proper remake and release. There was a few games that we played and hit, and I actually ended up going on. I was supposed to play some of these games. I didn't replay some of these games, and I ended up hopping onto Armor Games, which is one of the Flash sites that I visited frequently, and just started clicking through and playing some of the classics on there. Like one of the ones they released, I don't know, probably it's at least 10 years ago, was just Achievement. I think it was Achievement Get. And you have to beat the game, you have to get like 150 achievements, but it's all like super inane bullshit. Like the first achievement is like, oh, you went right, and it pops up an achievement box every time, like, good job, you went right. And then, oh, you went left, oh, you jumped, oh, you fell off a thing. So you're running around and you're just popping dozens and dozens of achievements in this tiny little room. Now I'm just reminiscing in my head.
One that looked interesting that I wasn't able to find a playable version was Super House of Dead Ninjas.
That sounds familiar, but I don't think I've ever played that.
It's kind of a thing where you move down the screen, like fighting other ninjas and collecting stuff, and I wasn't able to find like a playable version to actually play myself, but that is one of the more popular ones, which doesn't appear to be playable now.
Well, it looks like there's a Steam version. Yeah, you can buy that on Steam. Well, shoot, Matt. Binding of Isaac started out as a Flash game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Binding of Isaac is your jam compared to the rest of us.
The original version of it was Flash. It is actually still playable on Steam. And going back to it, you can feel the limitations of Flash.
Yeah.
I would go so far as to say there is no reason to go back to the original Binding of Isaac because the remake does everything so much better. But it is there as a part of the history of the game and like the origins of the game. And a lot of it is still there. A lot of that really dark humor, the kind of like gross art style of a lot of the characters and bosses. You can see where it all started, and the fact that it is so popular now, even though it's the remake that became really, really popular, to know that it started out as this like little Flash game, it's come a long way.
So, and what, like Binding of Isaac's been re-released like 3 or 4 times. You had Binding of Isaac, Rebirth, Binding of Isaac Afterbirth.
Yeah, Rebirth is a remake. Afterbirth is an expansion, and there is another expansion coming out called Repentance. Oh, there was Afterbirth Plus as well.
That's the one I was thinking was Afterbirth Plus. So yeah, there's 3.
Yeah.
Now we'll
Yes,
get
one I
another
have.
one. That's the one on the Switch, I believe.
They always come out on PC first, and then they eventually make their way to console.
One of the games that I played quite frequently was I played that a lot too. It was just called N, and essentially what it was your little stickman ninja. You were a ninja. Couldn't really tell though, because you're just a little stick boy. But it had kind of I could describe it as Sonic the Hedgehog momentum, where you start out kind of slow and clunky, but then you really get moving and you get a feel for the movement when you're running at top speed. You can wall jump, and there's springs, and it might have been somewhat inspired by Sonic the Hedgehog in movement. But you start out, but basically it drops you in a room, and the room is filled full of death traps and gold. And the goal is to run around the room, collect as much gold as possible, hit buttons and collect keys that'll unlock gates to get to the exit without being killed by one of anything that'll kill you. Whether it be like machine gun turrets or missile launchers or these little drones that'll, like if you get in line of sight, they will just go 1,000,000,000 miles an hour right after you and zap you. All sorts of crazy traps to kill you. And I want to say you pick up gold because for some reason, well, one, ninjas love gold according to the instructions. But two, the gold is your timer. You burn through gold for some reason. So the more gold you get, the more time you have to get through each stage. And if you're really, really good, your gold meter just goes off the screen. And it stays off the screen because you're collecting so much gold, but you're finishing the level so fast. It's pretty straightforward. I want to say that by the time that they were done with the game, I want to say it had like 50 stages or something like that, which is actually a lot. And they got brutal hard. But then I remember back in the day, N Plus got announced for the DS, and it got an official release. And it was, I never played it, but I watched some gameplay of it, and it's the same game. It's the same type of game, but with more chaos and more brutality and like more brutal levels. And it was, I'm watching them like, that's a Flash game. Like I remember saying like out loud, that's a Flash game. This actually got a real console release, and it blew my mind. And now there's another one that was where I found out later that's on the 360, and I want to say it's on Game Pass now. You can actually go play one of the N games. Oh, it's just N Plus got ported to 360. There you go. Or N++, maybe. And you can go play that. You can go play that game, and it's basically the same thing, except it loads a lot faster. Obviously, Steven, you were more into Homestar Runner than, unfortunately, Matt.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
Matt missed out on a lot of this, but like Homestar Runner had a plethora of games, and I know we were going to do this episode, and I forgot to mention it because so shame on me. But one of the games that they kicked out was, and it was from a strong bad email, where I think the question was, "What would you look like if you were an anime character?" And then he goes through, and they make him an anime character, and quote unquote anime, and it was a funny episode. But he gets named Stinko Man at some point because they ran with the joke. And Stinko Man got a game. It got a Mega Man style game. And it's hard, like classic Mega Man. It's very reminiscent of classic Mega Man in many, many ways. Like they did a very good job, I guess, doing a clone of it. But at the very end of December, like a week before the end of December, the Brothers Chaps made the final level for Stinko Man. Like 15 years or so, like 10, 15 years after Stinko Man had been created. And they literally said, they're like, hey, they like dropped a trailer for it on YouTube, and they're like, hey, with Flash dying next week, we thought it was only fair to make a game that you won't be able to play after a little while. And they released the final Stinko Man trailer and the final Stinko Man level. And if you can play I wish Adam was here because I think Adam would love it. But he loves classic Mega Man.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Have to send Adam to go play that, and he can put up a review. Shit. I was gonna say you should do it, Matt, but I'm pretty sure that you would come back and you'd kill us all.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because the games, it's super brutal. They are brutally difficult. Did you ever play on the games, or did you just watch the cartoons, Steven?
I didn't play any of the games on Homestar Runner. I just watched the cartoons. And like, if I'm honest, like at first I was just watching Teen Girl Squad.
For teenage girls through the ages of 13 and 19?
Yeah. And then I was watching. I picked up Strong Bad Emails at some point. But yeah, it's like not only that, but there was also Weeble Stuff, who cross posted a lot of his stuff to Newgrounds.
Did Weeble ever make any games?
That's a very good question.
Because I only know him for like the Badger song. Like obviously that was his claim to fame, was the Badger song.
He also had a few other ones. Let's go to weeblestuff.com. The first thing on the homepage is a video that says "Goodbye Flash."
Yeah.
Out of all of this Flash stuff, I think I am more familiar with Weeble than any of the other stuff, really.
Right.
You know, sometimes
Because
I wonder if you were Weeble.
I don't have the animation skills. although it is totally my sense of humor.
What's really one of my favorite things that happened with Mr. Weeble is obviously he's known for his little looping songs, Magical Trevor, which is probably one of my favorite things that he's done. So one of my favorite bands, artists, yeah, I guess is what it's technically called, is Savlonic. And they do a lot of, like, they started off with more humorous songs, and you can tell where the origin is, but they actually moved into a bit more serious, it's like electronic rock, but also, like, their last album had a lot of that, what's the word I'm looking for, kind of that synthwave feel going on. And Savlonic is Weeble. It was a Weeble project. It's legit music, and it's really good. But like they have now that it's, think of kind of a Gorillaz situation where there's a real band, but it's represented through an animated band.
Mm-hmm.
And I thoroughly recommend looking up Savlonic. Because again, it's one of those weird things where Weeble started off doing funny cartoons, and now he has this legitimate thing.
One of the things I've been looking at is Newgrounds to see if anything still works. And like some of these old videos that I had watched way back when, like they still totally load up. So I'm not sure if it's been converted from Flash or what.
I believe Newgrounds is emulation within a browser.
I'm not sure because like these movies I used to watch popped up, but I think there was a game I tried to pull up, and they're like, "Oh, this uses Flash, but we have a Newgrounds player that you can use."
Yeah, I downloaded the Newgrounds player, and I couldn't get anything to work in it.
The Newgrounds player kind of sucks.
Yeah, so what I'm going to try is they had a link to an emulator, a Flash emulator that somebody was working on that has extensions for Firefox and Chrome. So I'm going to try that out and see if it works.
Well, and I'll link this up later, too. There is a huge, this started like a year and a half ago, I want to say, when Adobe announced that they're going to kill off Flash.
Mm-hmm.
There was a huge archive project to go and find as much of this like Flash content in games and cartoons and stuff and archive it all. Mm-hmm. So it's not lost. And I want to say that they were building, it might be the same people, I want to say they were building a powerful Flash emulator to make sure that it could run and people could go back and experience this stuff, whether it be revisiting it or seeing it for the first time. Because while there's a lot of stuff that they can go and put onto YouTube, when you do that, some of it is lost. Like in the case of Homestar Runner, a lot of the cartoons had, because it's flash animation, a lot of those cartoons had clickables in them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you found the secret clickable, it would trigger a new scene to pop in.
Right, like
or it would spin something up, like a joke would appear on screen. Like with the Strong Bad emails, often clicking like certain words in the emails would bring up like little tidbits that would pop up on screen for you to read that were really fucking funny. And when it's on the YouTube, a lot of those, they don't, like the Brothers Chaps, when they're uploading them, they didn't have those jokes pop up. So you miss some of the content.
Yeah, you can technically view some of this stuff. And there's some creators, like one of the ones I follow, Hadouken Dude. He did a series of Zelda shorts that had all the little extra bits in them. Mm-hmm. And when he uploaded them to YouTube, like he recorded it with the extra bits. So like, the one where you click on a chicken and get the cuckoos singing the Robot Chicken song, like that's just in the YouTube version.
Good, because it's a great joke, and it's nice as an Easter egg in the original content. But like, if you're trying to preserve some of this, for modern, like the Brothers Chaps were like, put up a big thing. They're like, hey, Flash is dying. We're going to try to archive as much of this on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because they didn't have the clout or the structure to become big on YouTube. I really feel if they had taken the time to take Homestar Runner and put it on YouTube instead of relying on their Flash site, Homestar Runner would still be big.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's sort of like this thing where a lot of people remember it and enjoy it, but to anybody else, it's like, what the fuck is Homestar Runner? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because when it came down to like making fun of stuff and making fun of pop culture without explicitly just name dropping pop culture icons, the Brothers Chaps are excellent at it. One of their best games is Peasant's Quest, and it's a decent sized game for what it is, but it's making fun of the game King's Quest, which of course is a classic. But it involves Trogdor, and you have to roll through like your 5x20 grid map, or however big it is, scene by scene. And it's a hybrid text-based adventure like King's Quest, where you go into a thing, you observe your location, you walk up to a thing, you type a command. And the end goal of the game is to defeat Trogdor because he burned down your cottage.
Mm-hmm.
And I recommend playing through it more than once, because there's a lot of jokes that you'll miss just from like trying random shit.
Right.
And for anybody who especially may have grown up playing games like that, like Matt, you're a little older than Steve and I, not to rub it in, but you've probably played more games like that than we did, just because when we got into PC gaming, it had changed entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I played quite a few on the Spectrum. They were pretty much just text-based ones. I mean, you had kind of like a static graphic on a lot of them, but you didn't have like controllable characters.
No, you'd say go north or examine, whatever. I would highly recommend, if you want to have a humorous look back on that type of game, I thoroughly recommend you play Thy Dungeon Man 3. It is made by the Brothers Chaps. It's making fun of text-based adventures. And like you said, it has static graphics. I think the subtitle to Thy Dungeon Man 3 is Behold Thy Graphics, because it's the first one to have actual like pictures.
I do like the title.
Thy Dungeon Man, Behold Thy Graphics. And it's a short game. These are super, super short games, but they're funny as hell. I can only recommend it. Again, you'll have to go find yourself a Flash player or a browser that still has your Flash plugin to support it.
Are the emulation projects actually complete, or are they still in development? Like there was one I read of called Flashpoint, which is a really good name, by the way.
Oh yeah.
It has to be either Flashpoint or Flashback, I think, if you're going for a good name for that. But are they actually out?
Ruffle.rs is a Rust-based Flash emulator running a ton of classic Flash right in the browser without ever having to install a plugin or standalone player.
Ooh, nice.
So we click on that. Natively on all modern operating systems as a standalone application and on all modern browsers the use of WebAssembly. And there's actual browser extensions for Chrome and Firefox that you can just straight install.
Oh, good.
And I got there from Newgrounds because it's like, you go to one of the games, it's like, oh, this uses Flash.
Right.
Go to our Newgrounds player, and then you go to that link for the player, and the player like it has this information there, but there's an update from this month that says it appears a Windows update implemented a global kill switch to disable non-plugin versions of the Flash player, which also includes the Newgrounds player. So they've got some workarounds, but I mean, honestly, it's probably better to just go for one of the emulation projects.
It's such an aggressive move against Flash. I can understand if you're like, hey, look, there's no more native or official support. There's no more native browser support. Adobe is not supporting this anymore. But like when I turned on, and this was a sad, last week I turned on my computer and it popped up immediately. Adobe popped up a box and was like, hey, do you want, Flash is no longer supported. Click OK to uninstall.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, no, I'm going to hit the X. I'm not going to just let you or, agree to uninstall Flash. Like imagine if you were playing. Oh, I don't fucking know. Imagine if you're playing Destiny. Well, no, that's actually not a bad comparison. I suppose. I'm trying to think of another game. What's another game that can be activated offline? Because you can easily save Flash files when you play them. You can right click and save them, and then just play them in your browser, even if you don't have an internet connection. Let's say you're playing, I don't know, let's do something semi-relevant because it'll be funny. Super Mario 3D World. And Super Mario 3D World is now 10 years old, and Nintendo comes out and they go, hey, look, we're no longer supporting the Wii U. Like there's no more updates for the Wii U. We have officially dropped all support for the Wii U. We're gonna uninstall Super Mario 3D World now.
Mm.
It's like you don't have to take it away. I understand in the case of like the DSi, like we talked earlier, well, that's a storefront that they're getting rid of. That's a storefront that they have to support that probably isn't seeing any traffic. Then they have to get rid of it. They're not getting rid of the games you own, though. With this whole trying to like aggressively shut down and kill switch Flash across the internet like this, they're killing off websites.
Yeah.
Like in their whole, like currently still Homestar Runner is a Flash-based website.
Mm-hmm.
There are only a couple pages on it that have nothing to do with Flash.
Yeah.
And those are usually like links to like their storefront and stuff. The rest of it's all Flash. So if they actively go and kill Flash, they just cut that website off completely.
Yeah.
It won't run properly. The initial splash page will work and you can click to the store. Everything else doesn't exist anymore. Effectively. And there's not a reason for that. There's not a reason for that other than they want to move on to HTML5. But HTML5, even though that they talked about where they could like work some support in with HTML5 to operate old Flash content, it doesn't.
The reason that I read was because of a lot of security issues with the Flash player and a lot of exploits being usable within that player. That due to the way it's coded, they can't really patch out all of these exploits that people can use.
I mean, I guess, but at the same time, that seems kind of like an Apple-style blanket.
Mm.
Excuse to not do a thing. They're like, oh, well, it's a security problem. It's like, is it really a security problem? Because I find it humorous that Apple says we do not allow a third-party app store for the sake of security, because you can easily boot on in Android. You can easily boot in a third-party app store and get plenty of apps. You can't do that on Apple, except for the part where now you can sideload in. You can get a sideloader and install it, which will then install a third-party app store. And they don't have to be certified. You have to be careful about what you get. It's like, I have one for my job. Of course, I trust the apps that come from my job. It's excessively hard to log into them. Like, you have to, when you log in, I need a security bat or a security code to get in that is randomly generated off of a key. So that's obviously trustworthy. But like, when it comes to jailbreaking for iPhone, Cydia used to be the jailbreak app store. Well, you can just sideload Cydia now. You can't do any like super hardcore tweaks, but you can get side applications. So they claim it's a security thing, except for the part when I guess these people pay enough to get certifications to have these sideloaders approved by Apple, that suddenly it's no longer a security issue anymore. Because all sideloaders come with a warning that go, hey, this is third party. Beware.
Right. So here's my question. Can you use the Amazon App Store on Apple devices?
No.
Really? Huh.
No, yeah, it does not work.
Weird. Because Amazon's like up there, like, you know, they're generally trusted just as much as Google and Apple.
Nope, that is not available. They don't allow sideloading there. But it's just a really bizarre security claim. I'm sure there's some legitimateness to it, but just like at that point, just don't allow new Flash support, I guess. I feel like there would be a way to do that.
Right.
That would be just as effective, if not better, than just not allowing or trying to kill it off completely. Because HTML5 is great and it's a super powerful tool. It's not a replacement. It is different.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is a dick move on the same level as Nintendo just going, the Wii U storefront is 100% dead. The DSi storefront and all the content is 100% dead. The Wii U, the Wii. But the Wii U will be next.
It's already been disabled in certain countries.
Yeah, and the DS and the 3DS will be next after that. And I understand they can't keep these open forever, but like, even Xbox has just sort of integrated that into the newest storefront.
Right.
Like, they figured it out.
Yeah, because I mean, you go onto the Xbox store, and there are still original Xbox games on there that you can buy.
Well, what's hilarious is actually they've been adding those. Mm-hmm. Those weren't they don't still exist. They've been adding them.
Right. That's the thing is the impressive thing is the Xbox 360 content you can buy from like the beginning of the 360 era. Like, all of that is still perfectly purchasable. And now they've even got it worked out where you don't have the extra step of show price. Like, they've managed to smooth the process so that everything works fine. Like, that's impressive. But then again, it's Microsoft. They know what they're doing.
All of the consoles essentially run on different versions of Windows, so backwards compatibility isn't really an issue.
Nah.
Right.
But yeah, so the Nintendo thing is scary because like there's a whole lot of stuff that you can totally get on the Wii U eShop or the 3DS eShop that you can't really purchase anywhere else.
Yeah, no, it doesn't exist.
I mean, like honestly, I feel like they should have just merged. Like they should have migrated the whole thing to Switch and merged the 3DS and Wii U eShops.
That probably would have been a really smart decision. But you know what? This isn't the first time we've seen this from Nintendo. Well, okay, this isn't the first time we've experienced this. Not that this isn't the first time Nintendo's done it. But think back with the Satellavision, Satellaview.
Oh yeah,
There was a whole lot of unique and downloadable content from Satel. I'm pretty sure it's Satellaview, so I'm going to call it that. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That is gone forever now.
yeah.
And even if some of that was archived at the time, parts of it are still gone forever,
Right.
because it was live. And we don't have with was over 250 disappearing from the DSiWare titles gone. A lot of that's not archived.
Right. So, like, perfect example. BS Legend of Zelda. The Statelaview is the platform. But that was a remake of Legend of Zelda that had extra stuff in it and extra stuff to find, and it's now lost. And people have made like ROMs that can emulate some of it, but there's still a whole lot of it that's not there. Like the story has been completely removed, because that's all they can get is what they've managed to preserve. And it's like, damn, like, it's an entire Zelda game that's
gone.
large. Yeah, it's largely unplayable.
Well, yeah, it's largely unplayable, and then like a lot of it, like the Link to the Past remix that they did on there.
Yeah.
Where it was like two kids got sucked into the game, and now you have to play as them instead. That game had live music and live narration.
Yeah.
You can't preserve that part.
And then there was BS Fire Emblem.
Mm-hmm.
There was a
lot of stuff like that that's gone, and with the DS it's gone. And fortunately, with this Flash scenario, despite it being shut down, people jumped on it and still can muscle their ways in to keep preserving this,
right?
To make these archives, and it's kind of a I would say that there's a bit of luck there, but also, it's a different resource considering the nature of the internet that we're able to preserve all of this. And I'm probably going to spend I'll probably spend the next week finding various links to some of the games and that we talked about and some of the content, and I'll post it up on Twitter and stuff of just this portion of internet history, because that's really what it is. It goes beyond the games. It goes beyond the culture. This is literally a chunk of internet history.
Yeah. That
we're watching not disappear, but sort of be pseudo locked away right now.
Right. And that's the whole thing is like, it's good that there are people out there trying to preserve this, just like, the emulation scene are the ones that are properly archiving video game history, because fuck knows the publishers don't care.
They don't. It's like they get pissed off when you download a copy of Fire Emblem, but they have no intentions of making that available.
Yeah,
easily.
We're never gonna get New Mystery of the Emblem. Like,
exactly.
That's a super cool game that exists, and we're never going to get an English version of it. I think we might get Mother 3 just because the push is so strong for it. But it's just I mean, hell, just like the Mana series, we never thought we'd get Trials of Mana. So there's so much stuff that these people take the responsibility upon themselves to archive this stuff and make it available for a wider audience, and that absolutely needs to be celebrated, because and celebrated and supported, because without them we would have nothing.
Because eventually a lot of this stuff, because part of the problem, and it's like, okay, would it actually be permanently lost? Well, browsers are going to be updating. And the work behind it, these people who are trying to work on this, they can't work on it forever.
Yeah.
And on top of, you're going to be moving forward your so where I'm looking for it, your operating systems are going to advance, which is going to then basically reset the work on a lot of these plugins and software, so it's getting just like old PC games are getting more and more difficult to play.
Mm.
And are being essentially preserved, and the ability to experience them is being preserved by a lot of people who are doing a lot of work, and often for
No pay.
little to zero money. They're doing it just to preserve that history. It's going to be the same for... It's weird to think about it, but it's going to be the same for Flash. Eventually, you're only going to have a couple people who are working to preserve a way to experience this part of internet history outside of watching a video.
Right.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the animation will live on, but in terms of games, that's like gone.
Yeah, it's and it will. It's not 100% gone yet, but it will be.
I mean in terms of new content.
Oh no, yeah, new content is super over. It's super duper over. Well, until someone comes by and be like, "Hey, look, I made a Flash game." Because just like I remember, it was like 6 or 7 years ago, somebody made a brand new game for the Dreamcast, and it was like, "Wait, what? You made a Dreamcast game?"
And we spoke in the news section about Wonderful Dizzy.
Yep, making a friggin' Spectrum game. Well, and it was like last year or the year before where they had the director's cut of Super Turrican.
Yeah.
It came out in a physical cartridge for the Super Nintendo, as if Super Turrican's going to come out like on the Mega Drive or something like that. It is wild times. And you know what? I'm sad to see it go, but hopefully this is, progress is change. Something, long live the king.
Right.
Well, it'd be the king is dead, long live the king. There we go. You're supposed to help me out with that one, Matt. That's all y'all's anyway. Gosh.
Yeah, we don't know nothing about no monarchs.
We are actively anti-monarch.
Well, so are most of the people in the UK.
that's what.
Yeah,
that's the funniest thing.
I was supposed to say at this point, yeah, the Queen is about 7 billion years old. She's going to outlive the heat death of the universe.
It feels terrible to say, but at least she's not as bad as our previous leader.
Shit.
Well, she's essentially just a figurehead. She doesn't actually.
Right, she doesn't actually have any power.
No.
Although she did kind of take over the internet for those couple of days after she wore a green suit.
This is just like, well, I mean, it's not like we haven't done that either when Obama wore a tan suit and people just flipped their shit.
Right. But the thing is, like, when she wore the green suit, it was, let's put all kinds of crazy stuff with Photoshop.
Good stuff.
I don't know how much more we can say. Like, all we'd really be doing is gushing about more of our favorite stuff.
Yeah, just reminisce. I mean, it's a lot of reminiscing. Of course, that's what we always tend to do, is we get caught up on one thing we like, and then we find that one thing we really hate and shit on it for 45 minutes. Which we didn't do this time. We didn't really shit on anything for 45 minutes. I really feel like we need to talk about, like, Super Monkey Ball or something.
I'm quite happy to continue shitting on Billy Mitchell for as long as you want.
I don't know, like Ryan, if you disappear for 10 minutes, we'll start talking about Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I know, right? I just gotta go take a pee real quick, and I'm gonna come back to either Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts. Some RPG. I'm gonna be like, whoa, wait, hey, what's going on here?
But yeah, I mean, I guess the bottom line is yes, we're moving on from Flash, but Godspeed to the heroes that are trying to preserve it.
And these historians, that's what they are.
Exactly.
That's what these people are. They're internet historians, except not the internet historian. Although, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they did, or if he talked about Flash as well.
I mean, like, anybody can talk about it. Shit, I could, have a video up today about Flash.
Yeah, but usually his stuff is like really well structured.
Oh well, yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like you can make retrospective videos at any time, the window for preservation is very small these days.
It is very small, which is why, and it's actually funny because I didn't hear about the project until like late last year. That apparently it's been this huge movement. It's been this monumental task that these people have taken to start preserving Flash.
Yeah, because I mean, hell, you and I grew up on this stuff. Like,
yeah, we did.
Hell, I think a lot of current culture, a lot of meme culture, came out of all of this stuff.
Oh yeah, well, like I said, you have all these different things like Joe Cartoon. I want to say Black Sheep had a lot of cartoons as well.
Albino Black Sheep, yeah, had a lot of stuff.
Albino Black Sheep, there you go. Homestar Runner, Happy Tree Friends exploded into a thing. A lot of these Flash games that turned into staple titles.
Yeah.
Over the years, it was meme culture before meme culture was. Well, it was meme culture before memes memed.
Like, would my younger siblings even have their culture without Flash? Like,
maybe not. It would just all they would have was lolcats.
Yeah.
We owe a lot to it, and a lot of the people who were just having fun. That's what they were doing. They were having fun.
Yeah, that's all it was. Because as soon as they started trying to make money on it, the bubble burst, and
yeah, it oversaturated. Literally, that's what happened. Though, is it feels like it oversaturated when people were like, "Oh, we could make this, we could make the profit off of this." A lot of them just sort of, and of course, the rise of YouTube didn't help either.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, like Ego Raptors talked about how he bet everything on animation, and then it just completely fell apart, and he had to scramble to find something else.
Which is a shame because Ego Raptor was like top tier, like video game pop culture animation. I still find his stuff some of the funniest shit on the internet. Like to this day, I'll go back and watch some, even his old shittily animated stuff, and I'll laugh my ass off because it's legitimately funny.
Yeah, the man had talent.
The man has talent, and unfortunately, he's just doing Let's Plays now. And I don't blame him. He's making a buttload of money, and he's still being a funny man. But I miss old Ego Raptor.
Yeah, I honestly want more sequelitis because those videos are amazing.
The sequelitis was amazing, and that's not even old. That's like in the last 10 years that he.
Yeah,
was doing.
like that. Like that's not even a Flash animation thing. That's just like
that was
just like he did some animation over ranting.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah,
come back, old Ego Raptor.
I think at this point we've said everything.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have take a quick break, come back, have a couple closing statements, and be on our way.
Jump, jigga, jump, jigga, jump, jigga, jump, jigga, jump, jigga, jaw, jaw, jigga, jump, jigga, jump, jigga, jump, jigga, jump, jigga, jump, jigga, jaw, jaw.
Well, as I opened up with and said, Flash is dead. Long live Flash. And as Steven said, Godspeed to all the heroes out there trying to preserve it. It's not dead yet. Not in our hearts, anyway. Well, for some of us, I'm sure it is. Like, Matt, you're just like, I'm not totally sure, but I'll put up links and you should investigate some of them because I think you'd have a kick. I think you get a kick out of looking at some of it and playing some of these games that maybe pander to your experiences.
Yeah, I probably would.
But if that's all, then I guess it's time to say thank you for tuning in, and until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. All right, Ryan, you're almost done with... Fuck's sake.
I really thought you were about to say chemo.